You've had a great year, and I'm proud of each and every one of you. But now
He was just a teenager with a cracked phone, a quiet voice, and a dream that didn't fit the world around him. From the back seat of his mother's car, he sang about loneliness, and somehow, the whole planet listened. Before the awards, before the fame, there was Location, a song recorded in a bedroom that became an anthem for every young soul searching for a place to belong. His voice wasn't polished. It wasn't loud, but it was real. Khalid didn't chase the spotlight. It found him. Suddenly, the shy kid from El Paso was being called the voice of his generation. But behind the calm smile was a heart overwhelmed by the noise of success. Because when your songs become everyone's story, who gets to tell yours? This is not just a story about fame or music. It's about the quiet power of honesty and the cost of being heard too soon. This is the journey of Khalid, the boy who turned his isolation into a symphony, and in doing so, helped millions find themselves. Khalid Donald Robinson was born on February 11, 1998, at Fort Stewart, Georgia, the son of a dreamer and a soldier. His mother, Linda Wolfe, sang with the U.S. Army Band, while his father served in the military. Their life was built on constant movement, never staying in one place long enough for roots to take hold. From New York to Germany, then down to the sun-scorched streets of El Paso, Texas, Khalid's childhood was a suitcase, always half-packed. He once said, "I never had a hometown, just moments." And those moments, fleeting and fragile, would later become the heartbeats of his music. In Germany, he'd watch his mother rehearse soulful ballads in uniform, her voice echoing through military halls. She taught him that music could be both discipline and escape. It could heal loneliness without needing words. When other kids built friendships, Khalid built melodies. Every time they moved, he lost another set of friends. But his mother remained his anchor, his duet partner, his first fan, his only audience. Together they'd sing in the car, their voices rising above the hum of the highway. By the time he reached El Paso, Khalid was 16 and weary of goodbyes. But for the first time he felt something new. Belonging. The desert city, with its quiet sunsets and wide skies, gave him space to breathe, to write, and to finally listen to himself. He started scribbling lyrics about distance, hope, and the ache of being unseen. In a way, El Paso wasn't just where Khalid grew up. It was where he finally stopped running. In the quiet suburbs of El Paso, Khalid wasn't chasing fame. He was chasing connection. At 17, he was recording songs in his bedroom on a borrowed microphone, using beats shared by friends online. His music wasn't meant for the charts. It was therapy. Honest confessions wrapped in soft R&B tones. He uploaded his early songs to SoundCloud under his own name, expecting nothing. But people began to listen. His voice, gentle, aching, human, spread through digital whispers. And then came Location. It started as a school project, inspired by his longing to belong. The lyrics weren't about luxury or fame. They were about vulnerability. Send me your location. Let's focus on communicating. It was the kind of song that didn't shout. It invited. Soon, the track caught the attention of artists like Kylie Jenner, who shared it on Snapchat. Within days, millions were streaming a song written by a high school senior. Imagine being 18 and suddenly hearing your voice echo across the internet, across cities you've never seen. His mother, always watching quietly, cried when she saw the numbers climb. For her, it wasn't about success. It was proof that her son had finally been heard. In 2017, RCA Records offered him a contract. That same year, Location hit the Billboard Hot 100, and Khalid released his debut album, American Teen. The album was a diary disguised as pop, raw, imperfect, yet universal. It wasn't just music. It was a mirror for a generation raised on anxiety, hope, and glowing phone screens. From a bedroom in El Paso, Khalid had sent his signal out into the world, and the world answered back. Success didn't arrive like a thunderclap. It came softly, like the hum of a car radio, as American Teen began to take over playlists across the world. The boy who once sang in his bedroom was suddenly performing on the biggest stages in America. Khalid's sound was different. No glitter, no arrogance, just truth. Songs like Young, Dumb and Broke and Saved captured what it meant to be young and uncertain, caught between heartbreak and hope. He wasn't trying to be a superstar. He was just trying to understand himself. And somehow, millions of people felt the same way. His debut album went platinum. Grammy nominations followed. He performed at Coachella before most people his age had finished college. Collaborations came pouring in. Logic, Marshmello, Billie Eilish, Halsey. Artists drawn not to his fame, but to his sincerity. But behind the bright lights, there was a strange kind of silence. Khalid was still the same quiet kid from El Paso, just trapped in a louder world. Tour buses replaced bedrooms, hotel rooms replaced classrooms. He would smile for cameras, then retreat backstage to write about how lonely it all felt. In one interview, he said, "It's funny. I wrote about being lost, and now I'm lost in success." That contradiction became his identity. The superstar who stayed human. For a generation drowning in filters and false perfection, Khalid's authenticity was revolutionary. He wasn't a voice for Gen Z. He was a voice from it. The rise was meteoric, but it wasn't without weight. Every hit raised expectations. Every lyric became a headline. He had become what he once searched for, a connection. But fame, as he was about to learn, connects and consumes in equal measure. The higher he climbed, the thinner the air became. And somewhere between the applause and the exhaustion, Khalid began to wonder if the boy who wrote Location was still there to answer his own call. Fame had arrived like a wave, and just as quickly, it began to pull him under. After years of constant touring, interviews, and collaborations, Khalid's smile began to fade behind the lens. The same sensitivity that made his music so raw was now his greatest vulnerability. Every emotion became public property. Every lyric was dissected. He was no longer just Khalid. He was the brand of Khalid. Social media loved him, but it also devoured him. Every post, every performance, every quiet moment became content. The boy who once sang about connection now felt disconnected from everything that mattered. He started canceling appearances, withdrawing from the spotlight. Critics whispered that his spark was gone, that his music had become too safe, too commercial. Some accused him of losing touch with the voice that made him famous. But behind the noise, there was something deeper. Exhaustion. In a rare interview, Khalid confessed, "I felt like I was giving everything, but no one was really listening anymore." He wasn't angry, just empty. The world that once embraced him now demanded more, faster, louder. He turned down collaborations, skipped parties, and spent nights alone in hotel rooms, scrolling through memories of who he used to be. The more success he achieved, the more invisible he felt. There were no scandals in the tabloid sense, no fights, no arrests, no meltdowns. But there was something more haunting, a quiet unraveling. A young man standing on stage before thousands, singing songs about loneliness, and realizing he wasn't performing anymore. He was confessing. For the first time, Khalid questioned whether music had freed him or trapped him. And in that doubt, the voice of a generation began to whisper instead of sing. When Khalid returned, he didn't come back louder. He came back clearer. His 2019 album Free Spirit wasn't just a title. It was a declaration. A quiet rebellion against the machine that had almost swallowed him whole. Gone were the teenage anthems of confusion. In their place came songs about healing, acceptance, and solitude. Tracks like Talk and Better weren't desperate for attention. They were conversations with himself, gentle, introspective, and honest. He began to open up about mental health, urging his fans to speak openly about their struggles. On stage, between songs, he'd remind them, "It's okay to not be okay." It wasn't a slogan. It was a confession from someone who had lived the silence he sang about. The boy who once sought belonging had finally found it, not in crowds or awards, but in self-acceptance. He moved back to El Paso for stretches at a time, grounding himself in the desert calm that once gave him his voice. There, he reconnected with his roots, old friends, and the small-town simplicity that fame had stripped away. He collaborated with new artists, not for hits, but for joy. He wrote about gratitude, purpose, and growth. Free Spirit wasn't an album built to dominate charts. It was one built to breathe, and something shifted. The world began to listen again. Not because of hype, but because his honesty felt rare in a culture built on noise. In one interview, he said softly, "I stopped chasing perfection. I just wanted to be real again." And in doing so, Khalid didn't just reinvent his music. He rediscovered the soul that started it all. The comeback wasn't dramatic. It was quiet, graceful, and true. The kind of redemption that doesn't need applause to be complete. Khalid's legacy isn't written in record sales or trophies. It's written in hearts. He didn't redefine pop or R&B through spectacle, but through sincerity. While others built empires on image, Khalid built a bridge between vulnerability and strength, between isolation and understanding. For millions of listeners, especially the young and the unseen, his songs became a refuge. He gave voice to what they couldn't articulate. The loneliness of scrolling through lives you don't live, the hope that love could still be found in a message, a glance, a song. Artists like Billie Eilish, Olivia Rodrigo, and Lauv have cited him as an influence, not because of his sound, but because of his soul. He proved that music didn't need to be perfect to be powerful. It just needed to be real. Khalid also opened doors for a new wave of bedroom artists, musicians who turned small spaces into universes. His success told them that authenticity could compete with production, and emotion could outrun ego. In an era drowning in digital noise, he offered silence that spoke. And in that silence, people listened, truly listened. His voice may not always top the charts now, but it has become something far more enduring. A compass for a generation still trying to find its own location. For the first time in years, Khalid began to slow down. No more chasing charts, no more endless touring, just space to breathe. He returned often to El Paso, walking through the same quiet streets where location was born. Locals still wave, still call him the kid who made it. But Khalid no longer sees himself as a star, just a man still learning how to live with light and shadow. His bond with his mother deepened over time. She remains his grounding force, the one person who sees beyond the fame. He often says, "My mom's the real reason I sing. She taught me that music isn't about being heard. It's about being understood." That understanding became his North Star. Khalid began supporting charities for mental health and youth empowerment, quietly donating and visiting schools. He never turned these into headlines. He preferred the small, unseen gestures, the same kind that once saved him. In interviews, he speaks of balance, of learning to love the silence that once terrified him. He meditates, writes poetry, and sometimes disappears from social media entirely. Not out of fear, but out of peace. Fame taught him many lessons, but the most important one was this: you can lose yourself chasing love from the world, or you can find yourself by giving it. Today, Khalid is no longer the lost boy from American Teen. He's a free spirit, not because he escaped the spotlight, but because he learned to let it shine through him, not on him. In a world obsessed with noise, Khalid's voice remains a whisper. Calm, human, unfiltered. He never needed to scream to be heard. He simply told the truth, and the world leaned in. From a restless childhood in military bases to sold-out arenas, from writing in solitude to singing for millions, his journey has never been about fame. It has been about feeling seen. He once sang, "Send me your location," and maybe that wasn't a love song at all. Maybe it was a message to the universe, a call for belonging, a question every lost soul asks: where do I fit in this world? Khalid found his answer not in the spotlight, but in the connection his honesty created. His music became the map for those still searching, proof that even the quietest voices can echo the loudest truths. Because in the end, Khalid didn't just sing about being lost. He showed us that being lost can be the first step to being found. And perhaps that's his real legacy. Not the awards, not the fame, but the courage to be soft in a world that forgets how to listen.